real proud of our basketball team. Felt like we took the first, second, and third blow tonight. Thought Troy came out ready to go, threw punches, got on the offensive glass. We were down 7 on the glass at the half. I thought it was very important in the second half that we come back and not obviously we couldn't be down 14 for the game and win the game. Our guys did an excellent job in the second half of rebounding the ball, had a +8 margin to finish with a +1 margin for the game. I thought initially, and when you face a team that has so many seniors like Troy does, I mean, those guys are never quitting. They're tough. They're very resilient, and they're always going to get on the offensive glass. And I didn't think we realized to what magnitude that was going to happen tonight initially, but I thought our guys adjusted well.
This time we'll open it to questions for the student athletes only. And as a reminder, please identify yourself by name and media outlet and wait for the wireless microphone. Go ahead and raise your hand if you have questions. Going over here to the right.
Troy Schulte, Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Josh, can you just take me through what the difference was the last 10 minutes or so? You guys were sitting there 44-44, and you guys kind of ran away with it.
I think second half we just decided to get some stops, man. I mean, we understand that they can shoot the ball. They're very consistent, one of the better shooting teams in the conference. And with us, man, we had to try to chase them off the line and just hope they miss, man. And luckily they missed some shots, and we ended up coming away with some rebounds, some big rebounds that we needed, and just kind of took it from there.
Ben, I know you guys talked a lot this week about, not falling into an early hole, and you guys fell behind early. What was it, that was about that allowed you guys to get out of that pretty quickly and not let that kind of resonate a little bit?
We just keeping the grind going. We know, like you said, we did fall behind a little bit, but we just know we've been in some tight games before, and we just got to keep pressing, keep moving forward, get stops, like Coach always says. Get rebounds and just fight through it.
Go ahead.
For either one of you guys, but that about 8-minute stretch there where they didn't score a basket. Just go through what you guys were feeling when you guys were playing on defense and just how confident you guys got, and did you realize that stretch had even gotten that long, I guess?
It's kind of hard to realize it in the flow of the game, but over that 8 minutes, man, we were just determined to get stops, man, and with each stop we got more confident on the defensive end, and we started playing tougher, playing harder, and we found a way to get stops.
Ben, any additional thoughts on that question?
Oh yeah, we just knew what we had to do. Like I said, all our conference games have been pretty close, and we split with them in the regular season, so we kind of knew what we had to do against them. And like Josh said, it's hard to know in the flow of the game that I think we held them to 10 straight stops at one point, but we just took charges, got some rebounds, and just finished out.
And Ben, you've been on teams that have lost their first games of this tournament 2 years in a row. What's the feeling to be able to advance? Is it relief or just satisfaction, I guess, overall, or just kind of describe that, I guess?
Yeah, I guess you could say satisfaction, definitely. Like you said, my first 2 years, we haven't made it out of the first round, so it feels good to move on. But we're not satisfied. We want to go all the way, so we just got to keep going and take it one game at a time.
Any additional questions for the student athletes in the back right?
Justin Anker, 103.7 The Buzz. Wanted to ask you guys about the matchup with ASU tomorrow. Like Troy, you guys split with them this year. Unlike Troy, you guys held home court. Can you talk to me about this neutral court matchup with them and what kinds of things you feel like you have to do tomorrow?
With them, they great shooting team as well. You know what I'm saying? They got a great player in Van Slyke. They got great shooters at start and come off the bench. And you just got to be aware of everybody. So with us, man, we got to be urgent from the jump. Got to play for 40 minutes. You can't play 36, 38 minutes with A-State. You know what I'm saying? You understand how good they are. You respect them as a team. And you got to go out and fight for 40 minutes and see what happens from there.
Any additional questions? Thank you very much, guys. The student athletes, you can head back to the locker room now. We'll have someone to bring you back. And we'll now open it up to questions for head coach Steve Shields. Here in the front left.
Coach, without Neighbor, does your team have to do well to keep advancing in this?
Well, I think what those guys talked about, the defensive end. I mean, we've got to defend with urgency and passion. We can't get complacent. I thought we were a little complacent to start the game. as far as rebounding the ball. I mean, they had a guy who had 7 rebounds in the first half in 9 minutes, had 5 offensive rebounds. I mean, that's Rodman-like. I mean, but I mean, you know, we've got to continue to defend, and we've got to continue to move the basketball. Anytime you take a guy out of your lineup who's an all-league guy, who I think is in the top 10 in 6 or 7 categories, as Will is, averaging 17-7 rebounds a game, you're not going to be able to replace those numbers with one guy. You've got to do it by committee, and I think our guys have adjusted to that. I think back to during the stretch where, you know, we didn't have Will at Lafayette about a month ago, and our guys played very well in that game and moved the basketball extremely well. Marius Hill started his first game, had 15 points and 5 rebounds in that game, and we had the basketball on the last possession of regulation and a chance to win it. Unfortunately, we got beaten double overtime, and we had some games like that. But as long as the basketball moves, that's number one for me. We've got to defend, as I mentioned earlier. I don't know how many assists. I didn't bring my glasses, and as old as I'm getting tonight, I think 16 assists. Am I reading that right? I mean, that's the 4th game in a row where we had 18 assists and 20 made baskets at Troy. We had 16 assists and 26 made baskets against Arkansas State at home. And in a loss the other night, we had 18 assists and 24 made baskets. And then you look again tonight, same type thing. I mean, we're moving the basketball. The ball's got to move. I mean, it can't stick.
I forgot to identify myself. Gary Smith, with the New Orleans Advocate. One other question.
Thank you. I guess I shouldn't have answered that.
We'll penalize them later.
What kind of fines?
Josh had 15 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. Is that is that the type of performance you're looking? When you
It is, but it's a different guy on different nights. I mean, I think back to Troy, 4 games back. You know, Ben Dillard had 18 points, and then 2 nights later against Arkansas State, James White had 20 points, and it can be a different guy on a different night. That's the way this basketball team's got to continue to play, where no one cares who gets the credit.
That 8-minute stretch where they didn't score a basket, I mean, what was it that finally clicked for you guys at that point? They had gotten consistent baskets. I mean, what was it that turned it, I guess?
Well, I think our guys were committed to helping. Number one, I thought we had solid ball pressure. I thought we got to 3-point shooters. They've got a number of guys who can shoot it. I mean, Williams is shooting a basketball in conference play at a 44% clip from 3-point line. He's taken 173s out of 234 shot attempts. So, I mean, he's a guy who can really get up threes, and he doesn't need much room at all. I thought Devontae did an adequate job on him. I thought our bigs did a good job in a tough matchup with Calhoun. Calhoun's basically a 3 or 3.5 playing the 4 spot, and we've got bigger guys guarding him. And that's a hard matchup for those guys, especially with a guy who can shoot 39% from 3-point line the way he has in conference play. And he's so capable of driving the ball, too. Our guys were solid defensively, and that's where we've got to continue to be. You don't face a team like Troy coming in through conference play, 18 conference games. They had attempted 432 free throws during that stretch. Their opponents 332. So you're talking 100 more free throws and being a great 3-point shooting team. So our guys did a good job. That's behind us, and now it's time to move forward.
We have time for one more question if there is one.
The way you guys just were able to pull away and run away with this game, you guys at least recently haven't done that a whole lot. Does that say anything to just kind of what level you've gotten to, and just kind of, obviously it's a good start to the tournament, but just kind of?
I think the important thing is that we stayed with what was working. We didn't get complacent. We didn't start gambling defensively. We stayed solid for the most part.
And actually one final one in the back right.
Coach, obviously the tougher team won in the outing up there. I mean, didn't go well for you guys. You guys out-toughed them, I think, at your place. Can you talk about here, again, third matchup with ASU, what it's going to take to get that kind of toughness and get over?
You bet. I mean, John does a phenomenal job. His teams are always great rebounding teams. They always move the ball. They always cut extremely hard offensively. You know they're going to be an efficient team. I mean, their 2 frontline guys really concern me when you talk about Washington and Van Slyke. I mean, those big physical guys, we're not as physical. And I think we're going to have great help on those guys. And now when you take those guys and you got a guy like Van Slyke who can score it in many, many different parts of the floor, stretch it to a three-point line. Now that poses problems. And now you throw these guards on top of that who, I mean, they're one of the best shooting teams in the conference and probably in the country, really, when you look at it. When you talk about Melvin and then you talk about Golden, and I mean, they've got a number of guys that can shoot it. So we've got our hands full tomorrow night. We've got to be very resilient. We've got to be very detail-oriented, and we've got to continue to grind. I mean, it's not going to be, you know, a one-possession, two-possession game. It's not going to be anything in the first 4 or 5 minutes, and we've got to continue to stay the course.
Thank you very much, Coach.
Well, I thought the game turned there early in the second half when we got a couple of point-blank opportunities. It was a back-and-forth game early in the second half, and we got a couple of shots right there in the paint, and they rolled in and out, and then they hit us with a pretty good run right there. But you have to give them credit, you know, defensively. If you know anything about UALR and Coach Fields, I mean, their calling card is their half-court man-to-man defense, and you just look at the numbers. I mean, they really got into us tonight, held us to 30% shooting, and then they played pretty good offense down the stretch. They got some of those buckets when it got out of hand and we were pressing, but for the most part, they were really efficient offensively. But again, it goes back to their defense. They were really good, and we just struggled to score second half.
Questions for Coach? Over here on the right.
Troy Schulte, Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Coach, you guys have been able to win some games with the three-pointer this year, particularly the one at Little Rock. I mean, when those aren't falling, I mean, what does that do to you guys offensively? I mean, when that's not part of what you're doing?
Well, the thing against a team like UALR is they're so good, you know, physically inside, and we're not going to overpower very many people around the basket, particularly when they have Leaper in the game. And James White, I think, has made some good strides defensively. But when we're not, you know, when we're not able to shoot the three and make some threes, then we have trouble scoring, as you saw tonight. And what they've done, you know, since we played them that first time, both times we played them, is they made some really good defensive adjustments, and we didn't, as you noticed tonight, we didn't get many open looks from the three-point line, and give them credit for the way they decided to guard us and were really aggressive in those ball screens. And you know, the last two times we've played them, they've made a concerted effort to take the ball out of Hunter Williams' hands and make us beat him from somewhere else. And they do a good job. They've got quickness in the two guys that were guarding him, in Smith and Hagens. They had Dillard guard him some. And it was hard to get Hunter any kind of breathing room tonight just to get a good look.
You've seen them 3 times, once with Will Neighbor, twice without, and those are the 2 games that they beat you. I mean, what are the differences do you see from them with him and without him?
Well, if you followed our team at all and you saw us play 3 times against you guys, but when we have a better chance, particularly on offense, is when we can out-quick you in the 2 big spots. Well, when Will Neighbor's in the game, we you know, when they're playing, you know, if you look back to when he was playing, they played he and White together a lot. Now all of a sudden we have an advantage with our quickness. When he's out, as crazy as it sounds, we've struggled more against teams that went smaller and quicker because now we don't have that advantage at the 4 and 5 spot. And on our perimeter, we're at the very least, you know, we're going to be neutralized against anybody's perimeter because we're not the quickest and most athletic perimeter team. But we always have an advantage when we play bigger 4s and 5s. And like we did, like Little Rock the first time, but when people downsize and play smaller, I think Isom's come in, you know, and played well for them. When they're playing Isom and James White, now all of a sudden we don't have that advantage in terms of quickness, and it makes it harder for us to score.
Any further questions? Thank you very much, Coach.